What up, YouTube? We in the Dove Shack. This is Yucca, your host at the No Pigeons podcast. I am going to review another witchcraft video because this shit is just fucking funny to me. It really is. But I was going to look at one right now. It's called Why Some Black Women Are Turning to Witchcraft, right? Well, typically I find that women are just already kind of spiritual, you know what I mean? I understand why they don't like Abrahamic faith, you know, and its view on women and how they act and whatnot or whatever, or how they should behave, if that's the word to use. I believe so, but I understand why they stray away from Abrahamic faith, right? Because they feel that paganism and witchcraft gives them a certain power or whatever, you know, some independence, autonomy over themselves. But the way they're going about it, I think makes zero sense. And so the last one I did was from HuffPost. This one's from Vice. So if y'all don't see the similarity, it's always coming from liberal media sources, right? You'll never see some shit like this on Fox or some conservative outlet because they know it's nonsense too. Well, I mean, a lot of them are Christian-based and conservative Christian-based or whatever, so they probably think it's real, but it's, you know, the heebie-jeebie shit, right? But whatever. Let's check this shit out.
I honestly believe Jesus was one of the most toxic relationships I've ever had in the entirety of my life.
You shouldn't keep your magic in the dark. Like, this is your soul. You need to share it to the world.
What was toxic about it, though? Telling you to get married, have children, stay with a man, be loyal. What was toxic about it exactly? Did Jesus beat you? Like, what did he do exactly that was such a toxic relationship, right? And the funny thing about these witches is I bet you 95% of the time they're in toxic relationships. You know what I mean? Just a little more autonomous. You know what I mean? And that's probably why it's toxic. Whatever. Let's see these this little multicultural table session.
Let it rain on me now. So be it. So it is.
Leaving Jesus. Leaving Jesus.
I was a super Christian. I was raised in the church.
They going to the African market. These Africans are just milking this shit too. They just eat. Very few people coming in to buy all this stuff except for the traditional Africans and witches, I guess, right? Because they see these statues like, ooh, this looks powerful. I'm gonna buy this one. How much is this? $54? All right, cool. Let me get two.
I was a worship leader. I'm like singing all over the place and touring over here and crying out to God. How many?
Were you about to cry right there? You might have to deal with some trauma. You might have to deal with some traumas. Godly.
Times have I prayed to Jesus to show up for things that were actually needed, and he didn't show up.
Melissa Whetstone grew up as a preacher's kid, but 12 years ago, she left the church. She says the community felt toxic, and she didn't feel a personal connection to Jesus.
Hi, how are you?
I mean, I'm not surprised because you probably you had a lot of questions. You're like, this is bullshit, right? But you went from one form of bullshit to another form of bullshit, right? And that's where I see the cognitive dissonance. You couldn't, clearly your reasons for leaving Christianity were stupid reasons because you jumped into a whole heap of new garbage, right? Thinking you found something phenomenal, right? Regardless. Anyways.
I need the frankincense and myrrh I see is here.
She eventually discovered Lukumi, a religion that was brought to Cuba by enslaved West Africans.
You notice how they emphasize enslaved West Africans. It's always about oppression, right? Well, there are still Africans that aren't oppressed, still practicing this, right? It has nothing to do with oppression. It has to do with their culture. That's all it is. If you want to say, hey, I want a more Afrocentric culture, cool. You know, that's respectable, but don't come at it from a point of oppression, all right? Just be proud of it. That's all.
It's just a beautiful thing to be a part of. It's a beautiful community spirit. You're learning and growing with other people. So I really love it.
Black folks have left the church in higher numbers over the last decade than ever before, and younger generations are even less likely to affiliate with the church. But many...
Where are you getting these statistics from? Most black women I meet they still identify as Christian. The only difference now is they identify as Christian spiritual. So they don't accept everything in the Bible, right? Whereas the highest number of people I see leaving the church are black men because they're kind of outcasted in it, right? They're kind of outcasted in it. If you notice, women, they spend money. They spend money on in these markets. They spend money on being told how great they are, how this they are, how that they are. They spend money, and the men feel outcasted, you know? It's like men can do no right but build civilization and work hard and be told, take care of women, take care of this, take care of your children, you know? And what happens in the end? They end up getting divorced. 80% women filing for divorce, and then they get stuck paying child support, going to prison, losing their driver's license, all kinds of madness. But they're the victims though, right?
Many young people are still seeking spirituality, and some are reviving traditions from Africa and the Caribbean through practices that connect them with their ancestors.
If this voodoo stuff was so real and so powerful, how couldn't they stop the white man from coming in and enslaving them? Right? You couldn't do no spiritual magic to stop the white man? Stop the bullets from hitting you? Right? Because they had gunpowder, right? You could it didn't work then. It just works when you're in a privileged state in society where you have food, shelter, and water. So you can just delve into this nonsense because you have too much fucking time on your hands.
This is my Bovida or my altar. A few glasses.
She got a cross.
Water. That's just for my specific ancestors who watch and look over.
You see, they stay with Christianity and they stay with spiritualism. So she hasn't separated from Christianity. She got books about Jesus. She got a cross. What does a cross symbolize, right? Other than the pagan cross. But I don't think she's delving into that because that's a whole different, you know what I mean?
For me, I have liquor that my uncle likes, you know.
And sorry, I keep cutting it off, but that's another thing I noticed. There's always alcohol and drugs involved, right? That's how they see all this shit. That's how they see all this crazy spiritual images and whatnot is the alcohol and drugs, right? And some of the most spiritual people are junkies, from my perspective, from my experience. You see junkies and they're coked out, they're high, they're on all kinds of downers and uppers and whatever, and they seeing these spiritual beings all of a sudden. So, hey, and alcohol is a drug too. Don't get it twisted.
Make sure you still get lit on the other side. I feed them. I talk to them. I spend time with them. This is my place to be.
So can you talk about some of the differences in what you study now to what your relationship was with Christianity then? What are you getting out of Lukumi that you didn't find in the Christian church? I get answers to my prayers.
That I tell people that all the time. Like when they're like, "What's the difference?" I'm like,
"Is that a Haitian flag or a Dominican flag?" I feel like it's a Haitian flag. Is she Haitian or is she African American? That's a good question.
Because my prayers are answered. Like, that's one. When I come to my altar and I pray to my ancestors and I actually take my time to cry out, not only do I get responses, I get physical manifestations. And
yeah, so in church, you weren't getting drunk. You know what I mean? You weren't getting drunk in church, but you're getting drunk in your little self-made altars and you're getting answers all of a sudden. I wonder if there's a correlation. I wonder.
Answers.
You were born into a household where your dad was a pastor?
Yes.
How is that relationship with him now, and how did your family react?
I'm the black sheep of my family. I love my family to death.
Clearly.
They love me, but we don't see eye to eye. They're like, "Girl, you're going to hell. You're going to burn." And I'm like,
You're not going to hell. You're going to the pits of single motherhood. That's where you're going to, right? You're going to be alone your whole life. You know what I'm saying? In the words of Kevin Samuels, buy a dog and die alone.
If I was going to burn, I'm pretty sure we will be burning together.
Ironically, it is often because of that kind of religious conservatism that people move up.
Yvonne Chiruea. I don't know where that last name is. Let me Google it. Let me see the etymology behind that last name. Chiruea etymology. Chihuahua. Chiruea Name meaning. This bitch just make the name up or what? She popped up, Yvonne Chiruea. Did she just make the name up? Whatever.
About.
Dr. Yvonne Chiro studies African and indigenous religions.
A lot of these religions came to the United States after the Middle Passage, after the period of slavery. Like other immigrants, they bring their cultures and their religions. But because when they come to the United States, they're often met with hostility, they tended to be secretive.
Because they came to the United States or because they came to a different culture? You think you can go to Saudi Arabia with that shit and they're going to accept it? No. And the fact that she studies not just African spirituality, but she studies Native American spirituality. So as long as there's oppression behind it, it's A-okay. There's some truth to it, right? Because there's oppression behind it, right? But if you go into the Abrahamic religions, all of a sudden, nah, this is bullshit, right? Even though a lot of times they correlate and they're very parallel, but whatever.
Can you talk about the role that social media has played? Because especially if we're talking about the younger generation, they might not be as dedicated to being ordained and, you know, kind of doing all these rituals. But if I go up and down my timeline, now everybody's a witch. Everybody's burning sage.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to the turn of the 20th century, they utilized the internet or whatever.
That's their God right there, Miss Cleo. That's their God. Call me now. She was a fucking scammer. She wasn't even Jamaican. She wasn't even Caribbean. She was a fucking scammer. And this is your God right here. This is your leader. This is your prophet.
Media was available in order to be spiritual entrepreneurs. They would sell goods and services. They would treat clients and so forth. With the coming of the digital age, and in particular social media, I really feel like younger people are grabbing on to some of the digital trends where they can sort of brand themselves as practitioners. It's a kind of identity to be a part of this. So the internet...
What did I say? It's an identity. It's an identity. And a lot of people, especially black people in the world, have an identity crisis, right? So you find a lot of people of color, I mean, not so much Indians and Asians or Native Americans, they know their culture and they stick with that, right? Unless, or they go to Christianity or Islam or whatever. But a lot of African Americans and mixed race people, they tend to have an identity crisis. So they don't just choose one thing. They'll choose an amalgamation of things. You know what I mean? They'll find many different cultures and they'll absorb it all as if none of it contradicts or something, right? Like none of it contradicts. They just accept it all as fact. It's nonsense.
And social media has certainly helped to popularize it. But I really do feel strongly that this is something of a movement in that young black people.
A movement is supposed to have something behind it. It's got to have a foundation behind it, not just nonsense. None of this shit is real. None of this shit is real. I mean, you're really doing it, but you're not really a witch. What's this? The hood witch. Happy fall equinox. That's also European paganism too, right? Like, but you talking about oppression and this and that, like just the words equinox, isn't that a European? I don't know.
They are reaching back, they are recovering that which is ancestral, but they're doing it in their own way.
And yeah.
How convenient. How convenient you're doing it in your own way, the way that you want to do it, right?
Light the candles. Should we do that? Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna actually carve my sigils in the candle because I have them here.
Majori is a 29-year-old fashion designer living in New York who practices witchcraft. She casts spells with a coven of other young witches.
We're making money jars. So we're adding different herbs that manifest prosperity, money, success.
How much of y'all are rich though? Y'all manifesting all this and that. How much are y'all successful at it? How much of y'all are rich, multimillionaires, own property, and have a successful relationship? Of all you manifesting witches, I'd like to know them statistics.
I feel like, you know, Hollywood and like in the movies, they kind of like gave this idea that, you know, magic was scary. And it's like, is this scary? It's not.
Would you consider this your religion as opposed to being Catholic?
Yes, definitely. Divination is my main form of like spiritual practice, but being Catholic too, it still like resonates, and there's like some.
Is she East African too? I feel like she looked like Ethiopian, like the last chick in the last video I did. Maybe, we'll see. But is that the Marjorie one? Probably not.
Roots in there. I feel like Catholicism is extremely witchy. I mean, drinking the blood of Christ, I mean, you know,
Yep.
the whole sacrament, that's a ritual. Like, it is witchcraft. They just don't want to call it that. I just feel like we kind of need to get rid of that taboo mentality of like, this is something that is like evil or, you know, harmful, because it's not at all. It's the complete opposite of that.
Do you feel like in the last 5 to 10 years or so that is happening?
Because of social media, there's a huge surge of giving a light to.
Yeah, because social media is where to find the truth, right? That's where to find answers, right? I'm noticing a lot of these people, these young lefties, even right-wingers too, they get the information from memes. Not from studying, not from research, not from cross-referencing, from memes. And then they regurgitate the shit. I remember when COVID just started, the amount of black people I seen on my feed on Instagram and Snapchat posting that black people can't get COVID because of their genes and genetics and this and that. Meanwhile, black people were the highest death rate in America, right? They said the population went from like 13% to 11% because of COVID. So, yeah. That's your facts, though. Memes.
The divination community and like witchcraft and everything, and people are now being more vocal about their practice and being more comfortable expressing themselves and showing their craft. And I think that's very beautiful.
This is Ultra Magica, or crystals, coming out of the broom closet. So I have the Majori, the punk priestess, here in the flesh.
For many young spiritualists, the online community has replaced the one they might have had at church. But without the strict mandates that
You're just trying to replace one thing with another. One nonsense with another nonsense, right? It's like, oh, I stopped cutting myself, but now I'm going to play Russian roulette because that makes me feel free.
come with other religions.
I'm not the type of witch that likes to subscribe to rules. I just do whatever it is I please. If it
Bet you they lesbians too. Betcha.
doesn't fit the spell, I will improvise. It is what it is.
I feel like the rules, it's like oppressive. We need to have, you know, the system. You have to be a certified like tarot reader. And it's like, I want to like dismantle and get rid of that, because that's not what healership really is. You don't.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here. You don't have to subscribe to these rules, because like, who's telling you these things? It's again, like, have your own independent thought. That is what divination is.
I'm just holding it.
Taurus of you.
Very Taurus of you. And of course, you're not going to find no certified tarot readers, because, like, certified by what? Certified by who? By another tarot reader who got paid bank? Some of these bitches are spending bands to learn how to do this shit. How embarrassing is that? If you had a father in your life, I bet you he'll smack the shit out you trying to spend all that money, his hard-earned money, on some dumb shit like that.
So today we're in Southfield, Michigan for the Detroit Hoodoo Festival, and dozens of spiritualists from around the country have come together. They all practice something different under the African traditional religious practices, but this is significant because
I feel like they just find power in the word African. Oh, this is African, so it's powerful. There's a big umbrella of African traditional practices, so there's validity to it because it's African. That's why. It's hidden. It's a hidden truth. Hidden colors.
20, 30 years ago, these things were done in secret. So now they're gathering here at this hotel behind me for classes, workshops, there's vendors, and they're all just here to celebrate this new birth of spirituality.
I want to thank everybody for coming to the first annual Detroit Hoodoo Festival.
A gay man. A gay man and sensitive dudes. That's the men there, right? So it's all feminine energy, right? And you wonder why women don't run the world, right? Because shit like this, just nonsense.
We have a wonderful, powerful priestess, someone who really has a working grasp of the spirit, a working grasp of the traditions, a working grasp of how to facilitate and create changes in your life. So please, if you would, welcome my sister, a powerful priestess, Ms. Ifeabu.
Ms. Ifeabu, what?
people. How are y'all? First of all, thank you.
Ifa Abeyo is Melissa's spiritual mentor in the Lukumi faith.
The Bible is the biggest spell book known to man. We just don't know how to use it.
Ifa was initiated into Lukumi 4 years ago, but has been practicing divination through tarot card readings since the 90s.
So what was that experience?
How much money she make off that? I bet you she's up. I bet you she's super up. I bet you she got some serious money. How much money she make just coming to this little event? Probably $50 a head, $20 a head or something. Plus they buying items and little trinkets that she made and little potions that she made. Oh, this is gonna cure your depression and this is gonna cure your weight loss. Meanwhile, she fat as hell.
It's like 20, 30 years ago, reading tarot cards.
In New Orleans and stuff, they call you root people, root workers, conjure people, and things like that. So it was taboo. It wasn't as it is now. That was a no-no. You would come after church. When the lights are out, you would come at night and, get your reading or whatever work you need done. But it wasn't out like now. You would go in New York in Central Park and you got a table full of everybody reading.
20, 30 years ago when you were doing tarot and things in secret, could you imagine that in 2021 you'd be at a Detroit Voodoo Festival teaching a class?
Now, I will say this. The person that started to do this, to take it out on the road, a lot of spiritual people were against it. They were like, no, it's going to bring a lot of negative.
Hold up. Let me Google the origins of tarot card reading because I need to find out. Origins of tarot cards. There we go. The earliest reference to tarot all date. The earliest references to tarot all date to the 1440s and 1450s and fall within the quadrilateral defined by the northern cities of Venice, Milan, Florence, and Urbino. Because of the complicated nature of the game, by that point, it is likely that it had begun evolving earlier in the century. So this shit ain't even that old. African tarot history. The African tarot originated in South Africa. Tarot cards are commonly associated with New Age religion. This stuff ain't even ancient. African origin of the tarot by Afre Kepri. I wonder if they're biased. The term tarot would derive from the two Egyptian words tar, voy, or chemin and ro, which refers to roy or royal. Whatever. It's probably European.
It's going to make spiritual people look horrible, but we still did it because people now have a hunger.
How do you see these traditions and these religions evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
I see that more and more people who study this are seeing the health benefits, the mental health benefits, the healing benefits of religion and spirituality.
Where's the evidence? Show me the evidence. Please, I want to see the evidence.
It may not be conventional. It may not be what your parents did, but it's really, this is something that I think is going to grow, and it might be more broadly accepted because it works.
Let us be.
Let's have some clinical studies on this. Let's do some like laboratory studies on this other than just chilling in a candled up. What's the science behind the candles? What, do the spirits like candles? What about before candles were invented? What did the spirits not come out because there were no candles? What are these candles really about? You're just setting the mood. You know what I mean? Women tend to light candles, so you're just setting the mood. You know what I mean? You're just burning sage and, yeah, I mean, you actually get high off sage too. A lot of people don't know that, but you can actually get high off of it, and it actually raises your blood pressure, you know, so who knows? Stimulants, right? Stimulants, drugs, scents. You're just trying to set a whole vibe.
Sun-drenched and beaming, anointed, let it rain on me now. So be it, so it is.
And so it is.
So it is.
So nonsense. Just nonsense, right? But hey, and another thing I noticed is like, if African spirituality is so important to you, why are you doing these chants in English, right? Learn the language and do the chants in the native language. How about that, right? You don't want to do that because you're so scared of separating from your Eurocentric view, right? Yeah, they're all Eurocentric, whether they want to admit it or not. You know, they're changing their names to just mumble jumble names that ain't even African names. They really just practicing nonsense, right? It's embarrassing. It's fucking embarrassing. I'd like to see some clinical trials. I'd like to see something like that. You know what I mean? But they'll never come with that. It's all just money. It's money and mental health issues is all it is, right? A lot of these people are dealing with mental health issues, trauma, and they're justifying the fact that they feel better with the drugs that they're doing during these seances or whatever you call them, right? So, hey, more nonsense, but what can you do, right? All right, well, this is Yucca signing off. I'm going to check out some more of these witchcraft videos, and hopefully I get changed and I find the way. I find the light of the candle. Peace.